Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing today? Hope your day's going well. It's going pretty good so far. So be here and be back to our BugBu build. We did have a few snags between the last stream and this stream. Uh, Nothing too crazy. I just had a couple of parts failures as I was trying to print the carriage. So for the X carriage, failed this time, and I did notice finally that there's a little bit of work going on the side, but this failed, and I couldn't figure out what happened because I wasn't paying attention when it failed. But it was printing beautifully, great infill and everything. It just failed, and it failed for a temperature error. I started looking, I was like, okay, the thermistor is still reading proper temp. I tried to heat it up, and it wouldn't heat up. So needless to say, the boron B0 got taken apart, and what it was the thermal fuse added to the bottom of the bed had given up the ghost, so it had failed. So I had to basically just snip the ends off that, re-terminated with a new fuse, got a new fuse on there, which is simply it's a little ceramic fuse. You can bolt them down, but in this case, it doesn't bolt very easily uh, to the boron B01 bed or mounting points. So I paired it with some RTV. I do have a replacement bed coming, so I'm not sure if an issue was with the silicone heater or if just too many heat cool off cycles had gone through it and the fuse just blew. So I do have, I'll say an upgrade because I did order the LDO B01/2 polyamide bed, which has the polyamide heater to the bottom and a screw-in thermistor. And that one is actually a 100-watt heater, so it actually comes with a separate power supply. So I got the bed fixed, started printing the carriage again, and realized I was having a major warp issue go on. So I canceled that out. I tried to re-level it, and I also added some bed weld because this was actually starting to warp up a little bit in the front and the back. So hopefully the bed weld will work, do its trick this time. It's doing so right now. So if all goes well, we'll get the back done, and then I'll do the front, and hopefully those will get done, and we'll have a chance to put them on tonight. If not, the stream. But a couple of parts failures here. I also had several over on the Ender, trying to print some other parts in a different brand of white ASA. White is a notoriously hard filament to print. It's very finicky, especially when you're dealing with an ASA or an AS. So just trying to get things dialed in as well. A few people trickling in. Hey, Rolls. Hey, Kata, Dropsnat, Commander Root, Alicidra, Owenella. Sure how you want that pronounced. But I did get a series of other prints done, so we can get moving forward on the build. I also had a few deliveries come in today. I did order another set of motors, another power supply, new controller, things like that. Things that I had, but I had set them aside to rebuild the TiVo Tarantula with, and I figured I'll just buy the extra boards, they'll easily come. Now, the one issue I do have is I ordered 4 sets of 2 300mm linear rods. According to Amazon, they say they delivered all 4. They delivered 2. So there's still another delivery person out there. So I'm waiting to see if they show up tonight with the 2 along with my 300mm lead screws. If so, great. If not, I will, of course, have to go through Amazon and be like, hey, WTF, I need this my order. Hey, Rolls. So yeah, with that, I think we're gonna go ahead and get started. I did get some bearings out, get them cleaned up, and I just shoved some grease in them. So hopefully those will be pretty good for us. And we went through and just added a couple of extra parts here and there. I've got the rest of those. We'll put them on shortly, but following the manual, the next thing to start doing is putting the gantry in. So now that I have the linear rods, I'll be able to get at least the 2 y-axes and the x-axes put together. I just won't be able to put the carriage on just yet. So with that, the rods that go on the sides, they kind of clip in. So one side, the back side goes in from the top, and the front side goes in from right to left or left. It'll be held on with blocks and bolts and nuts on each side. So on the back, we're going to need M3 by 16. And on the front, let me double check. It's M3 by 16 and M3 by 20s. I guess I better double check which side goes which way. Out, we are actually, lock nuts probably wouldn't be a bad idea on the front since those are not captive nuts. So we'll throw some lock. M3 by 20s in the front, M3 by 16s in the rear. So once again, let me change our view here. So on the side here, we've got places for captive nuts in the rear. And on the front, the screws are just going to come through the side and be attached with a nut. So I'm going to use lock nuts on these because they're not captive like the one are. Just line those up, then push them in, and they're like the other ones. They should actually pop in with a satisfying clip. All of these in at once. And you've got different size clips for the back and the front. So just slightly different size. So I went ahead and labeled them. The back, to make sure and get one of my bearings on there. Some of that excess grease off. It's going to drop down on there. I'm going to line this up and get one of these started. Once again, it's M3 by 16 in the back. It'll be M3 by 20 in the front. We'll make sure that both of them are biting into the nuts before you start tightening them, because if you tighten one side down, you may not have enough length to get to the nut on the other side. Okay, and then for the M3 by 20s, once again, they're going to go in from the side here. Okay. These are going from the side, and you'll stick out. See if I can't get this a little bit closer. So you'll have a little bit sticking out. And like I said, I'm going to go ahead, just because we might get some high speeds on here, you never know. And I'm going to put lock nuts on here so that they shouldn't back off any. Hey, Chewy. Ooh, bad pizza? That's not good. Why'd you go and have bad pizza? I should say, was it leftover pizza? Or was it just not great? Okay, we got our bearing on there. One side down, we'll do the next side. Goes. And so we need a rod. Another one of our greased up bearings. Excess grease off the end. In there. In. Through my 16 screws, we already put the nuts in. And once again, get both started one at a time. Get them started to make sure that they're engaging with the nuts before you tighten them down, because if you tighten one side down, you'll wind up having to go with a longer screw to get down in there. These captive nuts don't have a lot of extra length to the pass on. This end goes on, and we'll put our two M3 by 20 screws in. And once again, I'm deciding to use lock nuts on this exposed side here. Let's get this started. hold them steady with a pair of pliers and tighten them up. Once again, there's no need to do major ugga-dugga here and crack the plastic. We're just tugging them up and we're good. We got our first set of linear bearings on there. Now it tells me to go ahead while I'm back here and install my motors. And like I said, I just went ahead, rather than mix and match, I just got another set of motors, which will mean I'll have another 3 stepper-on line motors that I can use for XYZ. So once 310 is released, maybe we'll do a 310 as well. I can use the other 3 motors that I'll have on bench top. Making a Tri-Z. You know what, Chewy? Don't tempt me. Like I said, seriously thinking of making this one a triple Z, like the 0G. All I got to do is basically take the top frame off, replace it with 2020, which I have downstairs, and yeah, I can pretty much make it work. So these are in 3x8s. Do those out there. And you want to orient your motor connectors towards the middle, because remember your electronics box is going to be right in here, so you want to orient towards the electronics. Say in 3x8s, but that's, I feel like it fights too many. I guess it gets a couple of threads. You want at least 3 threads. Anything less than 3 threads, and you need to go up in length of the actual bolt, because you just won't have enough holding strength threads. Just going to slide this all the way forward. Because we'll start all the way forward, and then we'll move them back to tighten our belts as we get to that part. That would be the other 2 rods. Second. So how's everybody doing this evening? What you guys been working on? Triple Z's on your. I tell you what, I've never done a triple independent lead screw system before until I did the Mercury One, with the 0G Mercury One, and I wasn't going to because the Ender 5 Plus Z system is very robust, and it's not cantilevered. It's dual lead screws. So I was really hesitant. Like I was like, I don't think I really need to do it because this works well as it is. And I made the decision late on. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. And yeah, now I know why everybody talks about the Trident. It's definitely all that in the back. Sorry about that, folks. Come over here and get the other two rods because we're going to need those shortly. Okay, so we got two rods in. We got these locked down. We've got two motors in. Okay. Now we're going to move on to our X gantries. And it says to M5 by 35 bolts nuts. Insert the captive M5 nuts in holes. Insert the BT2 toothless idlers into the recess. Okay. 5 by 35, not 25. Those brought. M5. These work. 2 per. Cool. Got a, if not here, and not here. Sure. We'll need a tooth idler. Should be a non-tooth idler. Those out. So we're going to drop that down in there. Put it from the top with the bolt. Kind of fiddle and fidget around it and up. Through. and down just until it's snug. So you need to make sure that your bearing still rolls. And once again, we're going to flip it around and we're going to do the same thing on the other side. My captive nut had fallen out, so I'm going to captive nut back in. Put our idler in. Then from the side, idler through, into our nut, and tighten it down just until it gets snug. Boom. Still spinning really. Now have an idler in there deep and one that's on the outside. This is our right side. So we're going to go ahead and do the same thing to the left side. All right, I'm going to read and catch up. So M4 thing. M4 extruder belt. Oh, is that like doing a, kind of like the M4, so the small pulley that drives the big pulley, and then another pulley that'll drive the actual screws? Thank you. Sorry, hydration break. Yeah, so that's the kind of like a Z, like you use on a 2.4, where you have the small motor that drives the bigger pulley. There's that like a 180 belt, um, and then you'll have the other pulley, so you get a better mechanical advantage. Put that there, and hopefully I don't knock that over. That would be sacrilege next to like dumping alcohol. All right, so we got a couple of our idlers. I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to take our M5. This is the deep side, so it's going to fall down in there. Make sure it goes down all the way. We're going to put in our idler, our screw in. Need to play with the idler just a bit. There we go. The idler will fall just a little bit too far. We just have to basically work it back a bit. And then we're going to tighten the screw until it just pulls snug on that bolt, on the nut. Stop. And you want to make sure that your idler still has plenty of play. Flip to the other side, drop in your nut, drop in your idler, through with your bolt. And once again, just tighten it up until it gets snug, and you're done. All right, so we got the left and right idler started. Okay, and now these and put them back in here. We have 4 of my M3x10 nuts and some more M3x20 screws. Okay. I'm just getting a few out there because what we're going to do is we're going to start our clamshells here. Front side. So front side is now facing you all. Makes this the left side, at the right side. So the GL, this is the left side. What we need to do is put captive nuts, 2 in the top, 2 in the bottom. And we hope that these are a good press fit. I feel like they're going to be. Tell you what, so far the fit of all of these has been spot on as far as all of the captive nuts. Yeah, popped in very nicely, and other than just one of the M5s that kind of wanted to fall back out, all of them have popped in just nicely and stayed in place. So that's been nice so far. So normally my Prusas, which they love using captive nuts. Um, yeah, those are kind of a pain in the butt as far as um, just it's just either way too tight or not. So this is the left-hand side. The thicker portion of the gantry block goes on the inside, and you're just going to kind of line it up midway over your bearing, and then the other side, they're offset just a little bit so you know which side, which way it goes. Then you use your M3x20s. It's going to sandwich it on there. Pushing these in by hand. Come back and start tightening them down a little bit at a time in a cross-corner fashion. Just trying to make sure I get good and even compression across this piece. Yep. There are 2 more captive nuts for pinning the X linear rods in place. had not said to put those in place just yet, so then we'll go in from the front face here. Just flip this around and goes in now. And these get in 3x16s. For it later. So these ones are on the looser side. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and drop these in there. And 3x16 started into it. Because the M3x16 is going to go completely through that nut, and it will actually push against the rod, and it's going to hold the rod in to keep. These through here and get an M3x16 started. And I think I'm just going to those on this one before I put it together. And so Rolls, is there enough play in these rods to actually get them in ahead of time, or do I need to yeah, we're gonna have to get these in ahead of time. Huh. So first little ditty on the fix here. Yeah, install the rods prior to attaching to the other side. I think I also need to put that back down in there. These two back there. just went and did that, and guess what I forgot to put on there? The linear bearings on these 2X sides. So just back off. Get that off. Pull these out. Bearing on each side. Excess off. Yeah, and I thought about this earlier. I think what you ought to do is build the X, do one Y side, and then come at the other Y side. But I think that way you already have the X together. You do the one Y side and add it on, and then clamp the other X side on. I think that'll be a better order of operations. Yeah, so riddle me this, because I've seen both 2 at the top and 1 on the bottom, and then I've seen 1 and 1. So I was curious about that because these are singles, and I'm actually surprised these aren't LM8 LUs, so the longer ones, or doubles of these, or two of the smaller ones. Yes, they would stick out the side then, but just with the amount of excess in these pieces. Let me do that without putting nuts in there. Darn it. Gotta pop this out to put nuts in anyhow. So if it should be 2 and 1, let me know, Rolls, and I'll go ahead and add the other one. Hey, Stephen Poole, how are you doing, sir? We're just doing and then redoing again. Build a couple of steps and go a couple of steps back. Good, I'm glad you're doing good, sir. Did we? I thought I had put screws in here, but I'm not going to bite on it. These ones are just a little bit more cantankerous. Great. Slide in. Just seem better with two on top and one on bottom. I mean, I can definitely go in and put another one in there. That's no big deal. This drawing would be a lot easier if this or putting the rods in there. Ah, darn it. I think what part of my problem was there is I got them out of their straight end, side to side with the pointy end towards the hole. Keep them lined like that. They should slide in a lot easier. Rotate. They get right. Keep that there. And one will collect lots of repairs. One out here. One bearing over here. Job. And it's going to be the bottom. Go ahead and add a second bearing to the top. lined up and back together. And there we go. The 310 cubed build area will be a 400 cubed frame or thereabouts. Yeah, because the 210, which is what this is, uses 300 millimeter rails. It's 300 plus 20 and 20, so it'd be 340 cubed, right? Because the uprights are on the outside of, I guess it's 300 high and then 340 cubed. Hey, Royal Nomi, how are you doing? Taking over BC's account again, I see. All righty. Try this again. We're doing the put it together, take it apart game. Together, take it apart. Put it together, take it apart. And on these blocks here, the bearing is offset just ever so slightly. So if you're putting it on, it's not lining it up. Flip the block around, and it'll line up. Once again, since we're trying to go into captive nuts, I'm just trying to get them all started before I crank any one of them down. Then I'll just work my way around them. It's not biting, it's feeling like the nut is not fully seated down in there. From the military, we just bang on it until it works. You had to take apart a piece of Frankenstein. Uh-oh. I didn't think you took printers apart and tinkered with them, Royal Nomi. That done, we're going to go ahead and put this one back on. All right, just like that, we got our gantry set up. Try and get some of the extra super lube. So I do use super lube, multi-purpose synthetic grease on these. For linear rail carriages, I tend to use Mobilux just because I have a syringe of it and it's easier to get in there and get those greased up. Hey Rob Inc., how are you doing today? Working on anything exciting? We're just here building a printer and getting our hands all greasy. All right, so now that we have those done, we have the captive nuts on these rods. We're just going to go ahead and just tighten these up. All we're trying to do is keep the rods themselves from sliding. We're not trying to really ugga-dugga these down any. Just trying to keep the rods themselves from sliding or rotating. Think of these as just like set screws. Okay. One linear bearing on linear rod. Remove the front mount from this linear rod. Fix the gantry all the way forward. Line up the Y gantry. Okay, that's basically everything I was just doing. And like I said, that will be the other comment I will make, Rolls, is there's a couple of different pictures and one shows two bearings at the top and one shows 1 and 1. So if there is an actual preference, you probably want to identify that and call it out. And wow, now is where we would go ahead and we would put our X and Y belts on. But I'm kind of missing a piece here, which is the X gantry. That's the one that I kept trying to print, kept getting warping, and then I had a failed bed where, hey West Rewind, how you doing, sis? Hey, hey, hey. That's good that you got it working. See, it's always good to know how the printers work, and then that way you can do the routine maintenance, and then you can go in and start fixing things here or there, or at least know what may have failed so that you can have somebody else work on it and know exactly where the problem is. Like when my B0 failed mid print, and I was like, "What is going on here?" Um, here we are. So we failed on this one, and I mean it was printing very nicely. It's all looking good, right? And it just stopped. I couldn't figure out why, and then I realized, looking obviously, Pepper tells you why. It had a thermal error and it shut down. Well, that thermal error, when I got to looking at it, I thought, okay, did I have a blown thermistor? Well, no, because it's still reading the good temp, and I'm seeing the temp slowly go down on the bed. So I tried to heat the bed, and the bed wouldn't heat at all, like no power going to the bed. So then I'm removing wires and I'm continuity checking. So I'm doing a continuity check, taking the wires out of the board. And I'm not getting continuity. So then I go into Wago connectors right underneath the bed. So I undid the Wago connectors and the wires from the board to the Wagos. I got good continuity on both of them. So I do the ones at the bed and I get no continuity. So what I'm trying to do is it something with the Wagos or is it something with the bed? And I wasn't getting anything in the bed. And it wound up being that the thermal fuse that you add in line between the bed and um, the power in, the power out of the bed, you do that so if a thermistor fails, it will break the circuit and it will stop heating rather than having a thermal runaway. It's a secondary protection mechanism in case the software doesn't. So then once I figured that out, I just clipped the wires and left the ceramic part of the fuse there because it's RTV'd on. So clip the wires, attach the new ceramic heater line. Then went to put the ceramic heater on with RTV and realized I probably should have put the heater on first with RTV, then made the connections because now I had to sit there and hold it for an hour. Because every time I let up, the wire, there was enough tension on the wire that it would move it across. So I had to sit there and hold it for an hour, which was always fun, until it set enough that, it wasn't going to move. So then I started printing this one. I'm not sure if you can tell on this one, but it bows. So yeah, that was a little frustrating. And there you can see, eventually you can see the layer lines, especially as it comes up to an edge. That just means I didn't have enough squish. So I tried squishing it down and I had it was actually lifting up the bed a little bit. Went ahead and used some bed weld. So once this one, that'll be in the back. Then I'll need to do the front, and that will allow me to be able to run the belts. And then I will still have to print all the extruder parts. So for now, what we'll do is we'll switch gears a bit and we'll go back to adding on some of the other stuff at the bottom, like the front right bottom bracket. And this is going to hold a 608 nut and the other 8mm rod. That'll go over here on the bottom. So go ahead and do this one like we did the other one and the back, one in the back. This isn't measured out, it's just attached right now. I'll measure that out and put that in the right place here in a second. We're using M5 by 10s and M5 rolling spring nuts for that. Okay, Royal Mummy, we'll be here. I'm going to go ahead and put my M3 by 8. Whoops, I'm going to keep 4 of those out. That up there, these were M3 by 20s. Back. And with any luck, like I said, my Amazon guy will show up with the lead screws and the other 8mm rods that we'll need for the Z. So we can at least continue to work on the Z while we get some stuff printed. Get those lined up. M5 by 10s. The manual calls for M5 by 12s, but 10s will work. And I've got plenty of M5 by 10s from previous builds. So Just going to make sure that this piece is tight into the corner. Lock these down. Yeah, pretty soon I'm going to have Westry like building printers soon. Sure, give me a year. If she goes to Murph, you never know. We may actually do a printer build together. Show her how to do it. I'm not going to work on belts right now. We'll have to come back to that. Putting in our Z stuff. Okay. Then we have some top pieces. So we have a front and left top. Once again, these are really well labeled, except for some of the small parts, but that's okay. So once again, this is the orientate this to the front, left, and this is going to come up from the bottom side and get mounted in. So what we'll do is we will set this, forgot we had that gantry on there. We'll set this on its front side so that we can put in our front left top. There we go. Matches like that one. So the flat side goes up against it with the rounded side facing down, and these are going to be the holes for the clamps. So we'll have to put in 3 of our roll-in T-nuts. So I'll flip this around so you can see what I'm doing. So the orientation matches the same way as the bottom. So 1 in the front and 2 on the side. Again, we'll go 1 with the hole down, 1 with the hole up. And we'll work on getting these lined up. A little bit more difficult. Just to in my head. I'll move that one once we get these 2 started. Make sure it's pushed all the way down. Move this over to line it up. And another M3 by 10. And I have a feeling I pushed that one too far over. And I did. Got it in there that time. Make sure it's tight down into that corner. And tighten things up. And rolls, just from a I guess an ordering, it would probably be better to do. I know these are part of the Z, and you're trying to do the manual in sections. These would probably be better to put on before we start putting the gantry on and adding the motors, because then you could just sit it up on top without a lot of things falling out, and you can use gravity a lot better, and it'll be flat. Just once again, something to think of about getting all of the kind of the bracketry on before you start adding the gantry and stuff. Yeah, and like I said, it's just for ease of build. Anything that you can do where you're still dealing with level surfaces and you're not trying to flip full printers over and things like that, because that's where things can get loose, like those bearings that go flying, and now somebody's got to go look for bearings, or like when I flipped around and forgot about the gantry, that could pinch somebody's finger. Not like, I don't think anybody's going to try and sue you, but it's just nice. The easier it is to build, and you know, easier, or the more you'll get built. This is a different printer, Everything Plus Ultra. This is a BugBu. So we already have a Rook. We did a Rook in a previous stream. So here is our Rook. Let me, just a bit. All right, that's the back. Here, 1 second. This is our Rook Mark 1. And this past weekend, you'll see there's no wires hanging out the side anymore. I did go in and clean up the wiring, shortened up the motor wires and the heater wires and a couple of other wires in here, so it's a little bit nicer put together underneath there. I'm trying to make this one easier to travel, because this one will be going with me to Murph. And it'll be on a table at Murph. So this is our Rook Mark 1. Once again, this is our BugBu, which will be a 4XY gantry system. Right, so we got our coax wire and linear rods. We will have a triple lead screw system, but the 3 lead screws are going to be driven from a single motor. So it's a belted Z, and the design principles behind here is to be a low cost, easy to build sort of Bambu, hence BugBu, type of printer. You can see, I think doing some of the bracketry and stuff will be a little bit easier, and like some of the build orders a little interesting. Like it shows you putting all your lead screws in and then coming in and lift, loosening things up to lift them up and put the belt in. I think if you have the belt, which is a closed loop belt on the bottom, it'd be better to have that when you actually put your lead screws in. I say that as I'm getting ready to not do that. Of course, I'm trying to find the diagram that has how far to move this over. One 133 millimeters from the inside to the bracket. That's where this one will get. So loosen these so they can slide. And it's from the inside edge. I'm going to go to 130. Nope. Oh, 133 for both top and bottom, but it's 133 from back left side to the bracket. You're looking from the, okay. So the view is from the bottom to the top. So you're seeing the bottom of the motor. So 133 millimeters from this side to the large side of the bracket. That was almost a snafu. So that puts the center right at about 1 center. So we do that here. We also have to do it for the top one. Top one is right here. And once again, we are going to lay this down to make it a little bit easier to get to our mounting locations. Oh no, Rolls. I hate when the internet goes out. Yeah, it does. Like where I live, I'm actually somewhat rural. I mean, we're not that rural, but I'm on the outskirts of town, so I only have one option for internet, and so if it sucks, it just kind of sucks to be me. Sort of tight in here. We're gonna measure, let's get from the side. 3. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm going against the printed edge here, so I'm kind of burning 20. Then I'm going over to 153. I can get these lined up. These two should match now. Not now's a good time to make sure they match. Okay. So we have our top and bottom brackets for the back. The other thing that we're going to need to go ahead and install back here be the back center. Sure, but sorry, what size? Guess those will be 5x10 based on how deep these holes are. Trying to figure out because this has to be longer screws with as thick as this part is. But drop some good holes that are These are pretty deep socket holes, so I'm assuming M5 by 10 actually gets down in the hole. Going to give you enough to work with. So it'll be 2 M5 by 10s. And this is going to be the lower bearing that the lead screw will sit into. So this is going to get mounted and centered right under the bottom piece here. So we're going to put this back over on its edge. So we're looking here at the bottom. And these are going to have to go in the same direction because of how close the screw holes are. And what I'm going to try and do is line this up with where the linear rod will go. The other two pieces. Right now I'm just going to try and line it up by eye. And once we get our linear rod, we'll actually go ahead and make sure that it's in the right place. Because our linear rod will be used to self-center that. So that's now on there. And there's going to be one more piece that goes to go into the bottom. No, so you go ahead and set this upright. So you can kind of see now you'll have a bearing there. Your rod will sit down in the bearing with a pulley, a spacer, another bearing, and then a bearing at the top, and that's what your lead screw sits in. That'll lock everything in there. I'm going to pay for putting these. If I flip this over, not pay attention to it. And actually, it shows doing the motor mount next. So we'll have our motor mount, and the connector side goes away from this piece. We'll go in there like that. Motor's connected with M3 by 10s. So we'll grab a couple of those. Go ahead and get this mounted on here, and then we'll start working on the screws to actually mount the motor onto the frame. Oh, nice. So you were able to get on fiber optic, huh? Yeah, I keep hoping there's a, let's just say there's a wealthy family that lives kind of down the road a ways. And since they're starting to bring fiber into Sanford proper, I'm I'm kind of hoping that they go, huh, we want fiber out to the house, because if they bring fiber that far, we could probably get a petition to have them bring it the rest of the way into my neighborhood. Yep, that'll give us the ability to let it back from tensioning. Just going to lock that motor in lightly, and we do N3 by 8. There's a T-nut. They use a T-nut on the back of these. So what's going to happen is this motor is going to get mounted, we'll say like this. So there'll be 2 that come in from the back and 2 that will come in from the bottom. So we'll have to flip this over one more time to go ahead and get this put on there. These are M3s, so we'll use our M3 rolling nuts. Again, 2 in the bottom, 2 in the back side. Done. These 2 started. We'll get the other one. 2 side ones started. Side ones are so yeah, gotcha. Yeah, I would suggest that if we could get these to M5s, that would be great, because then everything on the frame mount is either M5 10 or M5 12. It just makes it easier for sourcing, so you don't have as many different things on the bottom. And then that way you've just got a handful of M3s, and so you've got some M316s and M320s. I mean, most people will have various M3s, or it's not that hard for them to acquire them. But yeah, just the consistency, I think. Consistency and reduced number of different screws is kind of a design philosophy that's pretty good. Yep. Okay. Next thing that we have. This is kind of weird because you start prepping the motor. Like you show the parts for the various parts for the rear idler, the tensioner idler, but you don't necessarily show what size was used to I may have scrolling past the head mounts and stuff like that. Screws. Let's see. Looking at the instructions right now, trying to figure out what through it calls for. Not seeing it in written instruction. Here we go. Assemble the tensioner using one M5 nut, one M5 by 40, one GT2 20 tooth idler. Grab an M5 by 40. Quite honestly, if this is the only place where you use an M5 by 40, I would suggest trying to figure out how to get this into an M5 by 35, if possible, so it matches up with the rest. So we've definitely worked on it because this, once again, this nut hole is really deep. So we're going to put in a M5 nut and then just going to screw that on a couple of threads and push it down on there. Kind of get it down in there at the base. And thread it. And it's going to be a backside, so this shouldn't be a tooth idler on this one. This should be a smooth idler for this one because the backside of the belt's going to go around. Oh yeah, So the instruction said M5 by 40, but you're right. M5 by 40 would pretty much go through this whole thing. We only just need, you said M5 by 25, right? Okay. 25. So we need that. The, yeah, smooth idler. It says tooth idler and an M5 by 40 in this. Use the GT2 20 tooth idler. You're going to have a bad day because this is going to be um, teeth going onto an actual backside of a belt. That will not work out well. Once again on this, you're just getting it snug. That's it. You want the idler to spin freely. And just like that. I mean, we're right, not much at all. There's a little bit. Okay, we're still good there. Maybe, but like if I do like a quarter turn, it's going to start rubbing and not spinning as much. So you want to make sure that it spins freely, because once again, this is going to mount to the front. You're going to loop around. Belt's going to loop around here, around here, and then go into the toothed idlers on the 3 lead screws. So you're going to use this to tighten the belt, and then this is going to slide side to side to actually tension the belt. So, okay, have the revised instructions by Friday. Okay, good. Stand this up. And once again, the motor I have on there loose, it can move. And I'm going to put this on here loose because I don't think we have exact like locations just yet for this. If there is, I just haven't come across the picture with the exact measurements yet. But we will use this, like I said, to tension the belt. And we'll do the initial tensioning by moving the motor out. And then this will apply more or less tension as we move this around side to side. What else can we? We've got our clamps for the top and bottom of the bearings, which will go in here. We almost have one side of the gantry piece done. We'll need the front side, and then I need to start printing all the parts for the extruder. I need to get this done before I can run belts, my lead screws. Second to see if they have been delivered yet or if they've gotten pushed. Lead screws were supposed to be here today. Okay. Mrs. Dragon, you are listening. Send her a text real fast. Apparently, that's sitting at the front door. Really only get me so far. We can start prepping some of that stuff. Oh, thanks, Silverback Creation. So, I'm being prior military. I and having some friends that have been impacted by their service. Um, I came across the Valhalla project, and I really, really like what they have to say and what they do for our veterans. So be the reason they don't quit. Um, I can't remember right off the top of my head what the back says, but basically it's be there, let them know that somebody else cares and somebody's there to be with them, stand with them, because a lot of our vets, we lose too many of them on a daily basis due to mental health issues, and we don't need to lose any more. Thank you very much. So we'll see what this one brought us, and this is a set. Do not separate. Which is the first thing I'm going to do is separate it and see if this is lead screws or the other linear rods that they pushed me on. Okay, so these are lead screws, but they're individuals. So, yep. So I have two two lead screws with their associated nuts. So now I get to double, triple, quadruple check and see if they shorted me on the lead screws as well, because I would have assumed that I would have bought either 3 or 4. Not my day, folks. So it looks like I'm going to have to still come up with at least one more lead screw from somewhere, because now that the vendor I got these from are out of stock. and I'm going to have to file a claim for the other 4 of the linear rods because they shipped me 2 2-packs instead of 4 2-packs. But essentially what you're going to have on your Z-screws is I'm going to just move the rod up a bit. You're going to have a stack. Yeah, so we'll have one bearing at the bottom. You'll have your pulley. You'll have a spacer, which I don't have any of the spacers printed just yet, and another bearing. And it's too small, which means I need they have to visualize for me. So you'll have a little bit of an end, and there is a measurement for how much. I think it's supposed to be 7 to 9 millimeters left. We're at 9, so that's good. Then there will be a printed spacer and the other bearing, and it's going to sit down in the other bearing there. There we go. That tells me that some things aren't completely lined up yet because this is way out. So I'll have to fix one or the other of these. Yeah, this is not lined up. But anyhow, we'll flip around here. We'll do all the front ones. So what you'll see is it sits down. Your nut, of course, will be attached to your build plate arm. You'll have a spacer, and your other bearing will be captive right there. And then you'll have another bearing at the top that holds it in place. And then you'll have clamps at the top and the bottom that'll clamp your linear or your lead screws and your other linear rods. And so you kind of have to build the screws and the bed mount, and then kind of put it in and drop it down. Then you can add your clamps. Yep. And you guys have heard me talk about my buddy Evil Diesel, and he's former Air Force, and he's had a couple of rough years behind him. He's had some rough years, and I try and keep an eye on him as much as I can, and got him into 3D printing again. So that's helped give him something to focus on and work on. But yeah, this is, there we go. You can see now. So bearing down at the bottom, then your pulley. You'll have a spacer. Your other bearing will go into this bottom plate, and another one at the top. And they all should be flush right at the top, so I can actually raise the lead screw up some. But you want you don't want the lead screw above this top plate, and you don't want the linear rod above this top plate. They can be long and down. They cannot be above this top plate, or your print head will hit it. You'll have a bad day. But that's kind of where we're going to have to leave it because, like I said, I need to source some more lead screws, or yeah, another at least one more lead screw and some more of the linear rods. I had them on order. They delivered half the order, so I'm going to have to go argue with Amazon over that. Um, and my back my back plate for the X carriage is almost done. I'll do the front plate, and as soon as that's done, I'll start working on all of the orange pieces, which will be my accent pieces, and um, those will be the words. They're like so hard to come by these days. Those will be the bed portion, so the bed mounts and the actual hot end mount stuff will all be in orange as accent pieces. So, yep. And that was a color scheme that everybody here had kind of agreed to, was green and orange. So that's what we're going with. A bit. And then, of course, like any other bearing, or not bearing, but pulley with set screws, you want to put um, Loctite on your set screws. So what I'll do is I'll get these set. I'll probably just do this off screen. I'll get them set to the right length, and then I'll go through and I'll pull one set screw out, dip it in uh, Loctite, put it right back in. Take the other one out, dip it in Loctite, put it right back in. I'll go through and do that for all of them. But yeah, I should have the other parts that we'll need for this done by Saturday for the next stream. I do apologize. I am a little bit behind on some of the stream stuff, print wise, just because I've been trying to print some things and get them in the mail to Acetacraft. And once I get those in the mail to him, I will be running both printers on BugBu. Make sure I get everything done for the next stream. It's just kind of always good when it can. But yeah, right now we're at a stopping point. A couple of the other things that I've been working on in the background. Well, actually, I guess not complete stopping. I haven't mounted any of the electronic stuff back here yet, but I do have the power supply that I got. So I don't have to unmount the other one that I have. And I'm trying to decide, because I did most of the electronic stuff in the graphite, if I do the cover or like the do I do the power outlet and the cover for the AC power side, if I do that in the green, or if I do that in the black, or if I do that in the orange. So if you guys have a preference, let me know, and I will go ahead and follow that preference. All right, Rolls, thanks. Head on out. And like I said, I'll yell at Amazon. It's not the first time, won't be the last time. They've done similar things in the past where I've tried to order multiples of something and I've gotten half the shipment, and then a couple days later the other half shows up. But I'll go ahead and file a grievance, complaint, whatever you want to say, and get some replacements on the way, one way or the other. I'm going to assume I just mount the pieces to this, and then we just align them up and down as we need to. I believe those are M4 holes. Make sure I run them out in the right direction. Makes sense. Yeah, I want to grab some M4s. Sure, if 4x6s will work there, but we'll see. Yeah, that's gonna be 4x at least 8, probably 10. All right, thanks, Rolls. Have a good one. Figures. Box. We start with these, but I do have these are M4, but they're whatchamacallit. Whoops. They're the countersink. They would sit proud and won't really come through that much either. So it's what do I need? Let's see. All right, guys, I'm going back and forth trying to see if I've got some more text packet. Two will be a little bit, but go ahead and go on pause. Go ahead and find some. We may be, because I do have some M4 by 10 handhead screws. Should give us plenty to get into the several threads back of this. So our standard screws. The current snap covers for the cheap PSU. Okay, no worries. Yeah, I'll figure out something for this one. And you guys mount it with the do you mount it with the things? God, words today. Do you mount it so that the screw terminals are up or down? Going down, then I need to flip these brackets up. Make more sense, I guess, to have it down based on how it would work with the system. So I'm gonna have to take these off and flip them to the other side. Yep, no worries. No worries. We'll get it figured out eventually. What's everybody else up to tonight? Hey, Chewy, are you still there? About Western One. Oh, hey, Western One, you just chilling and watching. Oh, you're watching the Paltrow trial. Yeah, my wife keeps trying to get updates on that, and of course tonight's Tuesday night, so it's the FBI's. So we'll sit down and watch all the FBI episodes tonight, and then probably stay up late tonight watching the Court TV rerun of the Paltrow stuff. We keep trying to flip over. It's like, okay, we're between shows. Let's flip over and get caught up on Paltrow, and then it's the was it the Steven Scott or whatever is the other kid that they think may have been killed by one of the Murdaws. So she sees that on and she'll flip it back over because she just wants to watch the Paltrow and caught up on that. Doing builds is always great to have one of these on hand so you can quickly say, okay, this is a 3x8. Put it back in the right bin instead of the wrong bin. Okay. And so this will basically get installed sort of like that. And these have plenty of adjustment to them so you can move it around. So it helps flip it that way. There we go. So you can kind of move it around and get it spaced however you want it. So you can keep your wiring nice and neat. I'm going to assume these are also M5. Yes, they are. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one because, yeah, I mean, they keep trying to go, oh, well, she's claiming that she only wants $1, but she's also getting lawyer fees. And I'm like, no, the lawyers are getting that, and that's coming from her insurance company, or the insurance company of the, either her insurance company or the ski resort's insurance company is going to pick up that bill. And that is common practice. If you sue somebody and lose, you lose not just your court or your attorney's fees, but you wind up normally paying the other sides as well. That's just pretty much common practice. Oh, I didn't even think West 301. Is that part of your studying for your bar? Is reading up and watching trials like that? All right, Chewy must have bagged on me because he's being awful quiet. Either that or my mod went into full effect again and modded the heck out of it. All right, so I got this. Now the other thing that didn't make too much sense to me, unless it's the same kind of mounting pattern, was I don't see how this mounts for your uh, controller box. Assuming it might go like that, so you have your controller, your Raspberry Pi, and then your, that would help. So don't worry, I'm gonna clean these up some, but we've got our power supply mounted here. We can still move it around a bit, but your main board goes at the top, the Pi goes at the bottom, right? You'll have your cover with two fans, so you can run one off the controller, one off the Pi, I'm assuming. And you'll have your outlets here so you can run your USB cable down. And then there's a spot right here. This will be the connectors for the Pi. You have a spot right here that you can route all your cables in. Assuming you'll want that down at the bottom. So you'll bring your two motor wires together down over and in, along with everything else coming in through the bottom here. I'm just not sure. I didn't see any mounts for this, or at least I haven't printed any out, so I'll have to double check that. Maybe look for some mounts. Oh, yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go ahead and say we're at another pause point because I built everything that I have parts for, both printed and physical mechanical. I'll need to probably off stream. I'll go ahead and print the rest of the parts between now and Saturday. We'll have to install our um, pulleys on our motors, right? One of those three pulleys to install. And we'll have everything ready to start putting together our tool head, as well as getting our Z-axis built out. I did just get quote unquote ship notification on one of my belts. Actually, both both different types of belts that I bought. Um, the one I believe is stateside now, going through USPS. And I believe that was the 1100 millimeter belt. And then I also ordered a couple of 1140s. And whichever one shows up first is the one we will install. If it's the 1100, great. It should work through this design. If it's the 1140s, they'll be a little bit longer. And what I have is I will put another piece of a short piece of extrusion with a couple of corner brackets coming off the front here with a tensioner pulley on the front that will come out and provide some additional tension between the front two linear rods, and that'll give us our pulley tensioning then. So we'll do that. Like I said, it just depends on which belt shows up first, because I don't want to sit here and get everything else put together and be like, okay, we're gonna go another stream just to wait on a belt. Should have everything printed by Saturday that we could go ahead and finish the full mechanical build. And if anything, it would be a matter of, okay, now let's just do the electronic, running, wiring, and configuration setup. But that's where we're at now, guys. Thank you so much for coming out and hanging out with me tonight. I know it was kind of a slog, and this one's going a little bit slower than we did on the Rook. I was hoping by now that we would be able to have pretty much all mechanicals done tonight, even if we went a little bit longer. And then Saturday would just be a let's wire it and configure it. But it seems like we're going to have to go a little bit longer waiting on parts to come in. Like I said, I've got Raspberry Pis. I had all the controller board stuff. Just went ahead and got, another one, just to be on the safe side. And of course, squeaky. There we go. We got our squeakers. We got our little duck. Got Westry One's little duck here. She's still listening. Got our little squeaker duck. We're going to use a big Tree Tech board. And I will, potentially just get this mounted and go ahead and get a configuration dropped on it. I may do the configuration off stream again just to keep things moving. But we'll see. If you guys want me to, I can wait and I can do that whole configuration on stream. Up to you all how you want me to do that. I think it's kind of nice just to have the configuration already done. And I believe he's got a baseline configuration already set. It's just a matter of getting the last couple of things configured for your specific printer based on your motors, like what current works best for yours, stuff like that. But these are the same motors that we used on the Rook. So I can start with just taking those same base like current settings and stuff for the steppers and go that way. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I will work on getting the last few parts printed. I'll go ahead and yell and scream at Amazon and say, hey, where are my parts? I ordered them, I paid for them, you sent me half of them, send me the other half. We'll get that squared away. And if that particular vendor is out of stock now, I'll try and source them from somewhere else. Make sure that they are shipped in a timely enough manner to get here. So, sounds good? said thank you all for sharing your evening with me. With that, let's take a quick gander and see who is live tonight. Who do we got? Who do we got? I must really be picking like bad times. Notice yesterday Babe Ross was on, and normally there's somebody here I can keep over to. But what we got? We got Sid Heresy, who we've already went to the last couple of times. We got Chris Perillo on. We got Jazzy Wazzy. She seems to be playing Resident Evil, maybe with some colorful boxing, playing Fortnite. We of course have Maker Deck going on. Astro Print is live, and he's got some chats going on. Looks like he has possibly Jerry 3DHP in person. Of course, I'm waiting for an ad to finish to figure out who the other. But I think that's what we'll do is we'll go ahead and jump over to Astro Printer and join in on the chat, hang out with them for a little bit. It's been a while since we jumped in. Yeah, we have Astro Printer, we have Jerry 3DHP, and we have Tactile 3D Pictures going. Astro Printer. Okay, with that, we're good. Once again, thanks everybody for being out here. We've got a few fits and starts on this particular project, just waiting on some parts to both print and come in from vendors. So we'll hopefully have all of that done ready for next stream, which will be Saturday. We'll do a long stream, so everybody that's West Coast, you'll wake up and hopefully we'll have the X carriage on, we'll have the belts run, we'll have some Z stuff going, and we'll be ready to start. You'll jump in and be like, "Oh, let's wire it and make it go burr." Maybe we'll run into a long stream next Saturday, and we'll just try and push through it and get it done. Okay. Thanks a lot, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and get the raid started here to head over to Astro Printer. Please go with me over to Astro Printer and bring them all the love from the Dragon's Lair and hang out with us. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a good night. Bye now.